All right, it's good morning, everyone. It's 12:35, about to be anyway, on this Tuesday. Everyone's going well. I'm wave meteorologist Brian Good. It's another alert day. I think I left you guys before the holiday weekend with an alert day, and now we're back into one again. Maybe I'm the problem. Anyway, we are tracking, of course, the leftovers barrel that has been in the headlines now for nearly 2 weeks. We've been dealing with barrel out there. Well, barrel is has weakened to where it's just a remnant low. It's no longer a hurricane, no longer a tropical storm or even a depression. It's just a remnant low now. So it's going to continue to work its way very close to us. But to be clear, it's nothing like anything that we had, of course, with Ike. A lot of you guys remember that. This is really about the idea that we're getting a visitor coming into town that is moving into a very unstable, typical Ohio Valley hot, humid day, right? And you get that type of a disturbance to move in like this. This will be a fading tropical system. There's still a lot of moving and shaking going on, especially with the natural spin that the system will have. And therefore, when you mix its overall structure with our environment, the two don't mesh very well, and you end up with several severe thunderstorm warnings, and you can get almost every single storm can begin to spin as it moves on by. They don't always become large tornadoes, usually relatively brief, but they can produce damage, and they have done that already in the history of Beryl back into Texas and Louisiana. So it is possible. So it's not a guarantee you're going to get something like that later today. The whole point of all this, we've been talking about it for days, is to make sure you guys are aware of the setup, more like you would be on any other alert day for severe weather, and we'll guide you through it. All right, once we get past tonight, there's not a whole lot to talk about for a while. All right, so this is for weather enthusiasts, this is your main weather excitement for a bit. All right, I know a lot of you may have questions or comments. I will get to those coming back into play at the very end here. So give me a moment to kind of explain what we're looking at and the setup and timing and impacts, tornado or not, blah, blah, blah. All the typical checklist I want to get through. Once I get to that, then you can decide whether or not you have a question that I need to answer, and I will try to catch it for a sign off. Fair enough. Okay, let's begin with the current view outside, which actually doesn't look as bad as what it did earlier. I mean, we've got at least a decent little overcast right now over the city of Louisville. That's going to limit our heating for just a few hours. We'll eventually break through this and get back into a mostly sunny sky here very, very soon. Here's a time lapse, though. I had to turn the camera around, but a time lapse of when that cell, look at that eerie cell that came in roughly around 10:15, 10:30 this afternoon or morning. And as it did so, that's what led to the very eerie sky there for a while, but no tornado with that. All right, I'll play it again for you guys so you can see it. Again, turn the camera, and here it comes, moving on by. Did have a wall cloud with it, so it was trying to spin up enough to produce a potential tornado, but there were a lot of things missing on it, so that's why there was no warning that was issued. Thank goodness. It could have been a different little story there for this morning. But we remain quite warm and humid. You can tell where the clouds and the general showers have been today. Indiana, you're in the 70s. Kentucky, we've got a few upper 80s to near 90. Louisville's right there on the edge at about 82 at the moment. A lot of moisture. This is true tropical moisture. We say this a lot. Oh, tropical moisture is feeding back in the Ohio Valley. We say that in terms of coming from the Gulf of Mexico, right? Well, this is a tropical system that has been carrying tropical moisture with it its entire time, and it's pulling in from the Gulf. So this is a true tropical environment. And tropical environments are interesting because you can get some lightning. You're not going to get always a ton of lightning in tropical scenarios like that. You don't always get a lot of damaging winds as far as straight line winds. It usually is a setup of flash flooding and isolated tornadoes, two of the bigger things that tend to happen. Again, lightning doesn't always rule as much when you get a lot of moisture in the air like that. But we'll see what happens, because I think it's a double threat, certainly, when it comes to the damaging storm side of things. But I think we need to watch the core of the track for some really high rain totals as it passes on by. All right, here's a look at the satellite image and the radar combined. You can see the sun coming back out again across areas of central Kentucky. The sun's heating back up. You saw that 91 we had in Marion County. Meanwhile, Indiana, mainly overcast, a little bit of sun in Madison trying to come through. And then I'll get rid of the clouds so you can see just the radar. You'll be able to see that one cell that hugged right there near downtown Louisville and then tracked right into Trimble. And you know what? This has still got a structure to it that it could keep going, even past Cincinnati, could even go all the way to Columbus, and possibly even try to develop into another strong or even severe storm later today. So it's got enough of a structure to it and support that it's riding on a nice little boundary that will keep it going. And that's the thing. The train tracks, if you will, for problems for us today are laid out nearly right along the Ohio River. So anything that we have that develops along this path here today can produce severe weather. But it's also important to note that as we end this afternoon, while the boundary is here, that we've got the main shift on shear, you're going to get storms that are going to form in southern Kentucky, and they're going to develop. Some could be gusty winds, hail, maybe close to severe limits. But once they get into that boundary and they cross into that zone this afternoon, that's where we're going to get the potential to get them to rotate, and we're going to get tornado warnings. And we just don't know exactly how many we'll have, where they will be placed at until they form. But we do know that the environment that you don't want to storm into is roughly in this area. So if anything in Southern Kentucky feeds into that later today as the low moves by, it can certainly rotate. And that's going to take another 6 hours, 5 or 6 hours, and we will be in that zone. We'll need to be watching it carefully. Fairly quiet, I think, really, between now and that point. A few downpours to the north. There is actually an outflow from that storm that came about Louisville. Last I was trying to find it, it looks like it is draped out like this. Looks to be the outflow boundary. So I will be watching for southern Jefferson County into Shelby to see whether or not something could form on that boundary after the sun hits it again for a while. That is possible. That would be separate from other development from Beryl, but I do think we need to watch out with the boundary sitting there taking a nap at the moment near the metro. So again, we'll be watching that. That'll be the next few hours, if anything. All right, here's a wider view show in Beryl. Mostly heavy rain, lopsided on the northwest side. Not that unusual for a landfalling system, but it's getting some help because we do have a warm front that is also in the area. So it's basically a big bowling ball of moisture that moves inland, and then it runs right into a concrete wall, basically, and it just hits it, and then the water just kind of builds up, kind of like a wave when it hits a wall on the beach there, right? It kind of just hits it and kind of spreads outward there, where that's the reason why we're looking at a very heavy amount of rainfall and flooding issues where it's hitting the brick wall area. I don't see that happening for us. I think we're just on the right track to avoid that, but the trade-off is we're in a bad track for isolated tornadoes as a trade-off. So I'm not sure which one we would want, the flash flooding or the tornado potential. I'll let you guys decide that one. All right, so here's the fuel being added back in. You can see it building back into central and northern Kentucky. That is where we're going to get as that spin here. If there's anything left of a core of it, would be located here in southeast Missouri. Beryl is going to keep moving to the north and east, and anywhere south and east of that track is where that zone of shear, where the wind will shift, and you can get your rotation to begin to develop. So you got the fuel. So all these storms are going to react to that here very soon. They love the fuel. They're going to be beginning to pop more and more. Some of these feeder bands will react and develop. And again, they will push right into that environment where we are concerned about isolated tornadoes. Don't you all love my drawings? I know they're very good. I mean, Bob Ross has nothing on me. I understand. All right, so here's the severe potential, and the enhanced risk has been expanded. This is not a shocker. This just came in about a little more than a minute ago. I saw the alert came in for this. So the enhanced risk has been expanded now to include Louisville and most of northern Kentucky, accounting for that idea of any storm that can move into that environment. So just about everybody watching right now is in the enhanced risk, whether it's Louisville, E-Town, Bardstown, Salem. You guys have already been in it for a while. So that's a zone to watch for some of these thunderstorms to produce rotation. I think every single storm is going to rotate, and we may end up with similar to what we had in Louisiana, where you end up with like 5 or 6 different tornado warnings ongoing at once, but not all of them touch down. But you've got to just warn them. I mean, with the environment that we have, Weather Service is going to, any hint at all, that warning's coming out. I mean, they want it to verify, obviously, make sure that they are, warning you for a good reason. But I think you're going to have a lot of tornado warnings that will likely get issued later. Breaking down the tornado threat, it is a 10% chance in the yellow of a tornado impacting you within 25 miles of any given point. And wow, so again, 10% seems low, but 10% on that type of scale is elevated. All right, here's Futurecast showing this updated as well. It's showing 2 o'clock. Not much happening at 2 o'clock. We get to about 4 o'clock. All right, now we're dealing with supercells that are forming. Some of these will be in a line. Some of these will be isolated. It's the ones that will be isolated. We really got to watch for a tornado threat around 4 o'clock today. And again, developing randomly for a while. They'll try to organize into lines. It's like one here tries to do that into a feeder line. That'll be at 7 o'clock in Louisville. And here comes the main one. This one here, while I do think this one could contain some isolated tornado potential, don't get me wrong, but this final band near the low itself, usually the last one actually the wind flow becomes a little more southwest with it. So actually will be a little more parallel with the track of the low. Therefore, your tornado potential is not as high with this last band as the first few cells will be near Kentucky, but still it'll be something to watch. But it will take until here we are, 10:30 at night, and we're still ongoing with tracking showers and storms. And then by the 11 o'clock, midnight hour, or midnight o'clock, we're good. Hopefully no damage, no one was hurt, and then we can move on and enjoy a quiet but breezy overnight appearance as we come on down the road. All right, here's the rest of the 10-day. And you can see, yep, we've got at least certainly some hot weather coming our way. So once we get past the storms, it's all about the heat and humidity that will be building into the area. All right, let me see what some of the questions I can get to. Yes, thanks, Nick. We've been watching that as well about some of the trees that have been falling there. I don't know about an apparent tornado on US 42. I'm not sure where that is, Nick, but I did hear about some trees being knocked down, so we'll be looking into that. Anonymous, do you think the 3 out of 5 risk can move towards Louisville? Already has done so. So we're in it. Louisville 7 to 8. Ooh, that's tough. Louisville's going to have multiple rounds, maybe up to 3, at least 2. Maybe up to 3, at least 2. The first one would happen in about, I would say, 4 o'clock. The second one would be at 7 or 8, and the last one would be about 10 or 11. 1, 2, and 3. Those are the time frames we've got to get through. Tornado strength. Scott, you're asking about that? Don't know. It's not an environment for long tracked, intense tornadoes. So I'll at least say that. So far, I've only seen basically what looks like EF0, EF1s, but still they've caused damage and they've hurt people already today, or already out of the remnants of Beryl. So we don't want to play around with that. Bryce, the most time for the most risky round, I would say anytime after 6 to about 11. 6 to 11 is the period to watch. You can get storms before 6 that could be severe. I doubt you'll get much after 11. It should be winding down dramatically. Randy, much hail. Not really seeing a strong hail indicator yet. It depends on how tall they can get. Tropical supercells tend to be flatter than your typical summertime supercells. So I'm not sure they'll be able to gain enough height to produce a lot of hail. So at the moment, I'm not as worried about hail as I am on the isolated tornado threat. Shonda, quick spin up or long? Well, you can get 1 or 2. We've seen that already, that supercell that moved across the city this morning. You can get 1 or 2 that could last 2 or 3 counties, but most of them will be very much short-lived. This is a very rare setup, guys. There's not a lot of data that we have on this type of setup in fading tropical systems and tornadoes. It's happened before. It's happened probably 4 or 5 times since I've been here, even at WAVE. I've seen this happen, and sometimes it materializes. Sometimes we get nothing. So it depends on the time of the year. You know, if you get a landfalling remnants of a tropical system in October, usually right here, we don't have a lot of the fuel. We're already in October. So therefore, our severe threats knocked down. Or if they get here too early in the season, like a fading tropical storm in April or May, same story. Don't have a lot of fuel yet. But a July arrival, which is fairly early for us to be talking about this, it does now start to involve a little more of a tornado threat because we're now into the core of the season, a lot of heat to work with. So that's the reason why. Will planes be delayed at 8 o'clock? It is possible. It is possible. Not only here, but at Chicago, Indianapolis, Northern Kentucky Airport. I would check them all just to make sure. Let's see. Storm Chaser, Brody, do you think we can get the amount of tornado warnings like we did in Shreveport yesterday? I don't think we'll get to that level because they were just after landfall. So there were a lot of feeder bands for the tornado warnings to develop within. We really have 1 or 2 bands that are really trying to survive at a barrel that we'd have to watch. So not as great a coverage, but you get the idea. It's going to be on the southeast track, which is going to be our area. And that's why we have the enhanced risk that is out. Okay. Let's see, one more second. Should we expect from Cameron? Can we expect tornado warnings to be issued for precautionary measures? Well, yes, absolutely, because these can spin up and fall apart rapidly. So I think if the Weather Service sees any sign that something is going to spin up and could potentially touch down, yes, a warning is coming out. And the difference, and we'll be able to tell you this on air, if it's a radar indicated, that's basically why. If we ever say it was observed, then that's a problem. If we say something's been observed, then we run into a whole other ball game. But most of these will likely be radar indicated initially. If we get into observed talk, then we're going to notice not only in our tone and coverage on air, but hopefully in everyone's reaction should get ramped up a little more. Let's hope we don't get one of those kind of tags today. Watch potential, Elizabeth, I think a watch is likely. I don't know when. That's not our job, not the Weather Service either. It's NOAA for the National Storm Prediction Center in Norman, Oklahoma. They decide if a watch is going to get issued or not, and I haven't heard anything yet. I don't think it'll take long today to hear something. But yeah, I think it's likely. My gut feeling is 97.9% chance we're going to get a watch. Let's see. Sort of tornado related from, is it Cal? I think I'm seeing it. It's hard to see over here. I'm sorry. Twister movie winners announced today. I believe it's today or tomorrow. I can't remember when. I know the contest is over. So all the names are in. And we're going to have basically a randomizer. It's going to go through and select everybody that will get the tickets for the theater. So good luck. It's coming up next week. Let's hope we don't have any twisting weather going on there. And that would be bad. All right, guys, I'm going to leave it at that. I got to get back into the studio or into the set and get ready for how we're going to evolve into this afternoon on these storm cells to see what has changed. Again, to kind of recap, the Storm Prediction Center did expand the enhanced risk for just about everyone that is watching. Enhanced risk for severe weather, level 3 out of 5, and it's for multiple rounds of thunderstorms, some of which could be severe. Tornadoes will be on the list. The first one or two this afternoon look like they'll be very isolated and spotty, but once we get into around roughly in the 7 o'clock hour and again the 11 o'clock hour, those are the two that could feature the most amount of warnings later on today. But this is an ever-changing setup, so we got to get back in there. We got to get in, watch the radar. The models are models, kind of just got to throw them away at this point. We're too close to the event. So we're just looking at the radar trends. Your reports are great, so keep sending reports in. If you hear about any damage, photos and videos, you can do that on the Wave Weather app. That's helpful to us because it goes in our system and we can get them on the air fast. So please keep sending those in. If you're shooting video, though, of anything weather-wise, shoot it if you can sideways so we can be able to display it on TV correctly. All right. So thanks as always for your help. Appreciate it. And I will see you guys coming up on the flip side of this, hopefully without any major weather drama whatsoever. All right, guys. I'll see you coming up on, let's see, 3 o'clock today with Myra and Sari. All right. See you then.